Much love, many blessings. Happy new moon. I'm about to say full moon. New moon Aquarius. Getting the sun now. It said 6, but it's kind of like 6. I can't even say 6:30ish. That's more like it's actually closer to 7. Actually, when I made the post, I didn't know that we were going to get this flash snowstorm. So all the things that I had to do today took a little bit longer than I expected, but all is good. Much love, many blessings. So this Aquarius season is very, very, what's the word I want to say? Entering Aquarius season kind of feels like being on a roller coaster, or just something is like some massive plate is shaking and you don't necessarily have control over the movement. But the movement isn't necessarily hurting you, it's just a little disruptive. I find it kind of funny because like when we deal with Uranus, like that's like one of the, I want to say like the first planets, like if we're looking at like our planetary placements, where like, you know, like if we deal with like Mars or like Mercury, like those planets rotate really quick, you know, like their rotation, we see the effects really quickly. Like we put it out and we can usually see the return of the energy quickly because their rotations, their anniversary of their rotations happen really quickly. So we see the karmic results quickly. But like when we start dealing with like Uranus and Neptune and Pluto, because those planets take so long, the energy takes so long to really kind of get going, those planets usually affect us on a deeper, usually we start getting into subconscious, unconscious shifts. And those are usually like the areas where we don't necessarily have the most control over if we haven't if we haven't been dealing with like that inner work, or just that intuitive work. Yes, hello, many blessings. I hope your Aquarius new moon is very vibrant for you, you know, especially with Uranus being the planet of radical change, obviously associated with Aquarius. There's a lot of things that get broken up, like sometimes when we see like rebellion or just breaking away from tradition as a bad thing, but there are good things that happen with that as well, because foundations shift as well, and sometimes there's divine breakdown. So when we have set ways, set patterns, or let's say a dynamic, whether it's physical or just a connection or otherwise, that has been cemented, so to speak, a certain way, sometimes that cement is solidified, but that's not actually a good thing. So Uranus energy is kind of the equivalent of lightning. So that's why Uranus is sometimes associated with Thor, and because we're dealing with fire and the element of lightning, because we need something to kind of crack through the matter to break it up. And some of the breakup or the disruption that we feel in the collective metaphysically is not necessarily the most comfortable, even though it's happening in a good way. It's not the most comfortable, and then because it's out of our control, which is the nature of Uranus sometimes, we may get a little erratic. I think it's actually a good time to look at our like Uranus placements, like personally within our charts, to see like how we rebel or how we're pushing against like our Saturn placement or just authority in general. Like, are we, because like especially like before I even like really get rolling into the air signs, like just kind of reflecting on the Capricorn season, there was a lot of whether it was materialism or just even just drives and desires that are on the level. There was a lot of looking at what we did get and what we were able to achieve, and if we were left with feeling like we didn't achieve those goals, like this Aquarius season is kind of has us looking at those situations and deciding like, okay, am I too weighed down by this situation? And Aquarius comes in, you know, really interesting, because sometimes when we keep just hammering at the mountain or just hammering at a situation the same way, we're not actually going to make any improvement, and the only thing we're actually putting in is passion. And sometimes when we get that breakthrough, it helps us to see like, okay, well, this is like a divine break, because every time we have, like especially within dreams, when we deal with lightning symbolically is associated with epiphanies and divine revelation. So like with the magician, you know, the divine high vibrational energy is usually lightning or high light. So you can translate it either way depending on what's going on. across culture. So when we deal with lightning, we're usually dealing with something that is disruptive, just like Kundalini energy. It's how divine light is light energy, but it's disruptive. So it doesn't necessarily play nice, and with areas and things that need to be cleansed, it kind of pushes through. So with a lot of this Uranus energy, we may be looking at the things that have been comfortable within our energy field that now have us reflecting in a way that we're like, okay, well, now I'm forced to look at this situation. I'm forced to see, I'm gonna have to deal with this circumstance. I have to deal with what it is that I have with, the word that comes to my mind is security blanket. So we're seeing, like, do we really actually need those things, or is it something that is kind of, Spirit doesn't want us to plateau. Definitely just, there's a lot of good energy in this Uranus, not Uranus, but Aquarius season. Ultimately, I would say on both sides, like on the positive side, we're receiving the ability to get light. We're also allowing ourselves to approach situations or matters from an angle that we haven't tried before, either due to fears or hangups or previous attempts where the timing wasn't right. And Aquarius is the time traveler. So Aquarius, when it sees that something is off, it may revisit it or come back when it has a tool that may not be associated with the situation, but due to miracles or granting of that time traveler gift, they're able to smooth over situations, which is why they sometimes seem like they're a water sign and they have that base, but they're really an air sign. They make shifts, but they make shifts that are detached from the weight that comes with the burden of emotions and hangups of the metaphysical, or of the physical realm. And just emotions are physical as well. They're not necessarily tangible, but as it relates to metaphysical, emotions affect the physical, and when they affect physical things in our body, so emotions are also physical because it's also a lower realm fuel or center. So I do want to get into the air signs. I'm actually going to start with the air signs for the Aquarius season. I feel it's actually fitting because when I did the Capricorn season, I did pretty much all the other elements, but due to the circumstances, I just actually, you know what? I did bookmark a message when I previously channeled for Capricorn for the Capricorn season for the air signs. But honestly, like, the message was really so light that it was kind of like, the other signs, if I have to pick and choose on Spirit, then I have to give this message for the other signs as well, because there was a lot of weight. The air signs really kind of was just like, okay, like the Geminis, the Aquarius was kind of like, okay, you're being blessed right now. Just focus on what you're doing, kind of keep flowing with that. Gemini was kind of like, okay, if things are going good, they're going to keep going good, keep positive type shit. So there wasn't really a lot of weight for Gemini in the Capricorn season if I had to pick between all the messages. But in particular, as we're rolling into this Aquarius season, we're really in it, but starting with the air signs is very fitting because, like, when I really think on the Geminis, one of the messages that I want to start with was self-esteem. And when I think of Gemini dealing with this, like, Aquarius sun energy, Gemini is ruled by Mercury. So, when you think of, like, the movement and the actions they've been taking, sometimes they haven't necessarily been with a plan, is kind of like the best thing, like the best way to really put it. So they're going with their instincts, which may or may not be giving them what they want. And during the Capricorn season was showing them what it was that they wanted, but they might not necessarily have been being able to hold on to those things. So ultimately for Gemini, Spirit has been trying to tell you to create a plan. So as we move into this Aquarius season, Gemini is kind of like this Mercury energy that kind of zips and moves around. But Aquarius, with this detached nature, sometimes can just break away from a societal norm and just kind of go off and do its own thing. And sometimes when they come back to society, it seems like they have, like, these pieces or these keys to society, so to speak, that they're like, where the fuck did you get this shit from? And it's like there's that time traveling energy, that thinking outside the box that allows you to present a new energy that others wouldn't be able to bring to the situation. So Gemini coming into this Aquarius season is kind of looking at Aquarius like, oh my God, like, senpai, like, how do I be like you? And it's kind of like, how do you zip and run and do all this shit and seem like you're all over the place, but you also seem like you have a plan and a strategy. Like, how are you doing that shit? So you're almost like you're seeing, after being met with the things that you weren't able to receive, you're back at this point now, where you, not necessarily back at ground zero, but you experience something that you got a taste of, but you weren't able to maintain it. And you're like, damn, if I had not just gone out on it and actually maybe had developed some type of plan, I would have been able to bring this together. But how is this Aquarius doing this? How are they just kind of seemingly bringing all these things together, and it just seems like there's no form or thought or seemingly constant to their method? What is this? And you're trying to tap into the energy now. So definitely with this Aquarius season, one of the messages I pulled when I was actually channeling for Aquarius, I'm just going to actually go through the line here. Where is it? Okay. Here we go. Yeah. So make a plan. So for you Aquarius, make a plan. It goes without saying that you're feeling this energy of, you want to be able to not just happen into these things that you desire, whether it's not just about love, it's not just about satisfying the desires of your heart, but just being where it is you want to be and being able to stay in that state and feeling that you actually made that happen, self-esteem. So you find yourself back in this state during this time during Aquarius season, and you're kind of wondering, like, this is how this turned out before. Is it really possible for me to be able to make this happen this time? In a lot of ways, when we deal with the Uranus energy, it's very massive. There's a lot of energy when we deal with Uranus. So when the space within the Uranus placements within ourself, when we're faced with the gaps or all these steps, or just the hurdles between what it is we desire and what it is that we feel is out of reach, this is where the Uranus energy comes in. Because when the scale of how we feel about, okay, can I actually achieve this? Can I actually get that? When we feel that space between the gap and where the destination is of actually obtaining it or actually making it a reality, the Uranus energy starts to kick in, because that's where we deal with our rebellion. That's where we deal with the acceptance, or what we do to get what it is that we desire. So for you, and being faced with that energy is a lot of gas. You already have a lot of air to deal with. So now during this time, it feels as if, usually when you get a lot of information, you get overloaded. But in this instance, there's something unique about this Aquarius energy and placement that's doing something for you, which is why the Magician came up when I asked Spirit for the channel message for the season and what is opening up in your heart. So this is also a confirmation that you are mentally going through a change. And I do want to actually say that for all the air signs across the board, there's a heavy, higher chakra shift taking place. Well, with the exception of Gemini, because you already have the higher energy, but more for you, Gemini, is just self-esteem of, after being met with where you are now, realizing that there's still things available to actually be able to achieve what you want. And sometimes, even though you don't necessarily move with a plan, when you don't see any practical way in a situation, you can't realistically compute how to approach it. So this is the part of yourself that's trying to tap into this new unfound energy of how to direct this instinct. So we have the Magician take the lead, making a plan. So putting this energy, these new epiphanies, in order in a divine way, and also finding the confidence to realize that you didn't need, or you don't need anyone else to necessarily make this happen. I think a part of what has been holding you back is you've been being presented with good ideas, but you only pursue a good idea if it's kind of like the buzz, or kind of like the bandwagon, so to speak. But if you come up with it, you don't necessarily have the enthusiasm to put it to action. But you've been kind of coattailing things that feel like, okay, let me check after this. Okay, this feels good. They suggested this. It feels all right. And you're like, okay, well, why is this happening for me? But it's not necessarily sticking, or the circumstances that bring it about don't allow me to maintain it. And a lot of what's going on is that you don't necessarily feel the most compelled to make a specific suggestion. It's like the menu's in front of you, and it's like you always just, I'll have what they're having. And now you're kind of like trying to build this awareness of, okay, how do I actually just go ahead and decide what I want for myself? And the moment you decide what you want, there's this shift that's supposed to take place for you that's happening. Probably confirmation of this new moon in Aquarius to actually take the chance when related to that gap on just putting it out there so the breakups and the shifts can happen, especially in these circumstances that you continue to be met with that keep bringing you back to kind of the same starting point. I would say for Gemini, like as we left the Capricorn season, I also want to talk about the Venus in Aquarius. That's also shifting as well. And Venus, like I said, affects the values, and it also affects, it affects the values. It's not just about money and love, but it affects our values that are associated, particularly deep within our heart. And when we're dealing with Venus, it's not necessarily just like the moon where it's the disposition. So it might just be care about. So with Venus shifting into Aquarius, there's getting back to that detachment. There's been a lot of hangups, mental hangups with when we come up with ideas, or when you come up with ideas that you are considering so many possibilities that it's either easier to just go along with something that's already established and working rather than to accept or create something and self-sabotage your own efforts because you would consider too many unnecessary variables is the best way to put it. So you're sifting through during this time trying to figure out how to collect important information. You're trying to find treasures and then form a plan from that. With Venus entering Aquarius, there's this ability for you to, during this time, even more so easily let go of your hangups, or particularly let go of the things that have been sabotaging you, such as what people think about the connections that you're trying to establish or the path that you're particularly taking. 9 of Pentacles, I'm feeling a number of 3, so definitely build upon the Magician and the Gemini and what's opening up for you within your wisdom. There's more that you could be doing with the space that you're in. You have made a lot of things happen, but are you making things happen for yourself? Because what you are building is kind of like you're playing in the sandlot, and you're the king or queen of the castle that you create, so you already know the circumstances, but it's getting a little boring and you could be doing more with the energy. So you're trying to really decide what it is that you want to do during this time. So 5 of Pentacles during this time, because again, we keep going back to that, we're brought to the same point. It's like, okay, I created this, but why is it that I still feel like I'm down and out, or that I haven't really achieved what it is that I desire? And in a lot of this, there's too much consideration of the people around you. So at the end of the day, the support around you should be supporting you. If it's around you and only making you feel as if you have to conform to it, then you're more so an island within a crowd. Knight of Wands and Knave of Wands. So there's a lot of rapid movement. The understanding that's come to you, confirmed by the Magician, the understanding that's come to you is definitely also about how you've been overall putting together everything that you have available to you. And due to some ego blocks, you may have only been rationing what's available to you for one thing, because I feel in a sense that there's things that you don't want to leave behind that are comfortable. So you kind of just move at the pace of when those things also move and adjust as well. But you also are realizing that that's also a little boring, which is why you're feeling this sensation of kind of just dealing with the dollhouse. There's just more that you can be doing with your energy. And with the 9, such a heavy number in Earth, this has a lot to do with what you feel that you can be doing with your finances or what you're putting into, as well as if you're building a house or the work that you're putting in. I want to say to a lucrative relationship. It's not platonic. The word is platonic. Okay, so definitely as this relates to platonic relationships, the platonic relationship aspect is okay, but only if you're getting the good end of the energy, but you're feeling as if it's just a trade for trade. So you kind of find yourself wondering why you haven't actually left. There's a lot that's actually holding you back. Maybe because we're used to kind of doing the same trigger traits when faced with that. So that's why we have that Knight of Wands there. So this has a lot to do with karma cycles. So when we're faced with the Uranus energy, like I said, all of that gas, if we're facing trigger traumas that have to deal with the fact of our Saturn placements, so we're dealing with our restrictions and our fears, then we may be just going with, shit, it's kind of shaking up. You know what? Let me just kind of hunker down. Let me just kind of just stick to what's safe. Like, I didn't mean to shake up all of this stuff. But the thing is, this radical movement that's coming to you, that's also making you feel like you have to move, is also the energy that it's not a light energy, is what is the best way I can put it. Kundalini energy or divine or higher vibrational energy is not light, so it's divinely disruptive. So you can't have this new perspective and apply it and think that it's going to be quiet. So you might be sitting in a situation where you've come up with something that you know that you've been playing or being small about because you are dimming your light, say, to allow for someone else to kind of not just outshine them. But in doing that, you're not using that energy, but you know that this energy has come to you from a divine place or just from a deeper place. And even if what their intent is good, it's still going to cause some disruption because it's going to bring attention to you. And the attention is good for you, but the attention is going to put you in the spotlight. It's going to put you in a position to receive something that trumps everyone else, and that's going to create disruptions. It may make people feel some type of way. It may give you what you want as well, but nothing is always clean. This is the thing with chaotic energy when you deal with Uranus placements, when you deal with the Aquarius sun. So as it relates to that, as the month moves through the Aquarius season and we have the Aquarius Venus placement, this is really a strong time to be kind of doing the heart check to see, what am I getting too emotionally riled up about? Because Aquarius is about dropping the emotional attachment to what we're moving forward in or making the intent focus on in a healthy way and being able to actually successfully manifest that into reality. So I think as long as you're taking those pauses and you'll be able to make a practical plan and you'll be able to see what that plan is for you. You can actually use this new moon in Aquarius during this time to actually just channel and petition intents. Especially since Wednesday, I think is very divinely synced up. It is Mercury Day, so it's good for communication. So you can put those petitions for financial changes and just building your honors and building your standing and the things that you can't really, in particular because of the Aquarius new moon, where you feel this big gap and you don't feel as if there's any possible way that that could happen or whatever the fuck that is. Those are the things that you should be just putting out there so that you can see what the universe can get back to you and what you're actually capable of. Because a lot of this has to deal with the fact that you haven't even tried to even initiate it because you just overwhelmed yourself with what's ahead and what's required. Much love, many blessings. All right, I'm going to move on to Libra. Libra, the sign of balance. For Libra, we had also, like I said, for all the air signs, we had the higher chakras. So for Libra, we're dealing with the third eye. So this has definitely a lot to deal with your discernment. You've been taking in a lot of data, even leading up into the Aquarius season. And the thing about data and just taking in information, and that's all comprehension. Well, that's all really just initial understanding. In the throat chakra. So that means we just collected the data. We're just kind of taking it all in. So you've been taking a lot of data, sometimes more so on the surface. It's beneficial information, but it's just information for the sake of what it gives you. So there's a saturation taking place, and part of spirit is kind of trying to get you to slow down from mental burnout, because when you take in too much information, the first step in learning is when we bring it in or take it in, we understand it. We have an initial understanding that happens in the throat. That's because that's where everything is processed. But comprehension happens in the third eye. So it's the equivalent of being book smart, but are you actually have the wisdom to know the over or the all understanding or the overstanding of what it is that you are actually able to have at your disposal as far as your energy and your knowledge. So a lot of the energy your spirit is trying to get you to do is to actually like, all right, you got a lot of good shit and you may even be benefiting from it, but are you overstanding it, or is it saturating you? Have you had a chance to actually take it in? So this Aquarius season is helping to detach, or is attempting to bring the wisdom to detach so that you can move forward. You're balancing right now, and sometimes being at tone is not good because you need to take action, and Libra is the sign of passivity. Yeah. Okay. So it's time for you. That's why your message from Spirit for Aquarius is take the lead. So you have all this information, but I feel a sense of caution, or just a sense of you may be sitting, you've reached a point that was really hard to get to, so you may be sitting in comfort. So it's now time for you to physically rest, for you to mentally rest, but to physically make sure your, whether physical self is doing active work or secure, or to make sure your foundations are secure, your physical reality is secure. So whether it relates to your home or your finances, you need to make sure your four corners are solid, your four quadrants are solid. Because there's something that you're not seeing, Six of Coins, as it relates to what's being given out. You're something in your energy, whether physical or just with your time, is feeling like a charity case, or whether it's you within yourself are feeling like you have to be a charity, or the people around you are feeling a sense that there is a charity sense, or that they can just kind of come to you within the energy, and you have to do a self-check to make sure there isn't a depletion taking place, because you are giving too much of your energy to other things and haven't actually brought it in to kind of appreciate the benefits for yourself. There are very good signs in this as well, because it also shows that you've stepped into a new phase where you feel that you have more energy to give. This isn't necessarily a strain on you. It's only a strain when you don't take a pause to just kind of breathe for a second. But you do feel that this new stride is not a strain for you. You simply need to allow yourself to adjust to what new things will be presented. So this Aquarius season will be throwing things at you, both good and bad, that are just awareness checks to not get comfortable. It's to enjoy it, but not get comfortable. Yeah. Open your eyes, make sure you're paying attention, which is why the third eye is there. Let's see. Oh, okay. Let's see. Okay. So yes, we're gonna tap more into that Six of Coins, especially as it relates to the third eye, and a lot of things that you're manifesting or just envisioning for yourself. Some of what's going on is you didn't know that what you've been working so hard for will bring you to this, and what's required to maintain it may feel like a full-time job, may feel like a overwhelming commitment. So this is a lot about being particularly honest with what you need to open up with. And when we deal with the third eye, we're not just dealing with clarity, not just clarity, but we're also dealing with openness as far as, are we seeing the full perspective, or are we taking in the full perspective? Are we allowing ourselves to be limited, or are we in particularly too focused on, so some of you are super saturated in the third eye. So you're either too focused on what it is that's working for you, and you're missing the point, almost like focusing on the forest and forgetting about, or focusing on the trees and forgetting about the forest. Yeah. So there is some blindsiding that you need to take account of so that you can move forward. You're moving forward in the physical, but there's a pause somewhere that is not allowing you to fully enjoy what is taking place. And until you address that, you will continue to feel compelled to be in this this kind of giving, kind of charity state. So we have strength. So there's some inversion here. You may feel this may have to do a lot with vices and addictions, or just the things that make it hard for you to give into. So this can relate a lot to personal loved ones, or just relate to things that you haven't fulfilled with yourself, and you give into these comfort desires when you get fearful about the plans that you put in place, because there can be a lot of calculation and consideration. Though there may be some romanticism sometimes, because even though you're an air sign, you are associated with Venus. So there may be some things that you haven't considered about what you've been so passionately working towards. That's what's going on. There are some things that you have not considered about what you've been so passionately working towards. So strength comes into play because a lot of your drive and what's been giving you that focus has a lot to do with your passions and inner move. So strength has a lot to do with the lion. That's the lion in our courage, but it also is associated with Libra. So there's something that's balancing about it for you. It's literally the fuel that gets you to go. So when the thing that the destination isn't looking appealing, it's kind of like why am I even doing this? Three of Pentacles, the inversion. Why am I even doing this? What am I even creating this for? So you're also in a sense looking for the value, but you're looking, just in nature of having to look means that there's something that is still not being seen. So you may only be taking in the process, but you're not appreciating the deeper aspect of what you have accumulated, or the position that your energy has put you in. There's a seed that's still growing. You have not seen the tree yet. You've only seen the sprouts. And the sprouts are so abundant that you haven't considered that this is only the beginning. This is only the beginning. So this time in suggestion with Spirit to take the lead for you, Libra, has a lot to deal with you created something that you see is working, and there's a momentum in it. You worked really hard to get it where it is. But now that you see that there's more to it, you have to be realistic about the investment so that you can actually make real strides. The things that got you here are not going to move you to the next pace or the next stage. There's a sense that what you're doing will maintain you, but there will be a constant plateau. And the plateau is because this is just a corner of the full structure. This, as great as this corner is, it's not a full house. It's not a foundation. So it will always just be this. You will always just generate this. And that's because this is a piece. You're not supposed to fully invest in this. You're supposed to use this to guide you and take the lead. So definitely as the Aquarius season moves forward, with having such a valuable tool, both physically or metaphysically available to you, and support available to you, this understanding, let it resonate within your spirit. And as the Aquarius season comes, find out what ways and things that you thought had to be set in stone, and how you can smooth over and take action in those areas to actually jump and take the lead and move forward in a way that will actually give you new name, new clout, new finances, and the lifestyle to give you that wholeness that you're actually seeking. Because now you're experiencing the lifestyle, but you don't feel the lifestyle. And that's because you have to feel it. You have to be it before you step into it, So step into it. All right, we're moving on to Aquarius. Aquarius in the Aquarius season with an Aquarius sun on an Aquarius new moon. It's a lot of Aquarius energy going around. And I've been wanting to do a spread on Aquarius. I actually was kind of, in particular, of all the air signs in the Capricorn season, I actually did want to do the Aquarius message. So it's very fitting to actually be doing this one now. Aquarius, for you last season, just as a simple message, there was a lot dealing with, the word that comes into my awareness is just blessings, or just being aware of the miracles taking place. So that was seeding in the Capricorn sun season. So you may have been taking a break, or may have just been kind of just grinding on some Cinderella story type shit. And all of a sudden this thing is kind of happening for you. You're feeling that effect, and you may already be doing well for yourself, but you're feeling the next stage. Okay, this can be upgraded. This can be transformed. You're feeling this ascension of transformation feeling in all of the things around you. And it's not rose-colored glasses. You're seeing this kind of overlay happen, and you're trying to decide, is this real? Is this can be happening, right? And that's what you're kind of fitting into place. So for you, Aquarius, one of the big messages we have, definitely still dealing with the higher realm. So we're dealing with the crown, we're dealing with inspiration. So you're putting together new things, big things, consideration to ideas and matters that, like always, people have not considered. But sometimes people think that there is not a new way to surprise someone, that everything has already been seen, but you're coming with something new to the table that is going to break that norm once again. You have strength in your gifts. So this also has a lot to do with confidence in embracing your own individuality of what it is that you're bringing to the table and what you're working towards. There's been a lot of resistance, Ten of Swords, and you may even be met with a lot of resistance as you move forward with your strides. There's resistance isn't necessarily karmic as it relates to being malicious or deserved, but it may be karmic as it relates to a necessary growing challenge to help to toughen you up. This shift is coming from a place of being complacent and sitting in the shadow for too long. So now there's a process going on that's kind of like forcing you to come into the light. So that's one of the reasons why we have inspiration, because a lot of times when we're under pressure or just forced into a circumstance, you are forced to give a lot of consideration to the light, and stars shine brightest in the darkness. So there was, especially during this winter season, the last year, moving from last year into this year, and just dealing with all the people who were getting sick, there was a lot of people who were just kind of under the weather, and just a lot of kind of death statey, a lot of darkness going on. So what light that was being experienced in that time was very apparent, and for you were having or being forced to really focus on, okay, what the fuck am I good at? What really makes me thrive? What makes me survive? What makes me stand out? What is giving me life? And now when we have the messages of strengthening your gifts, a lot of that is building upon that and stepping into your Uranus energy. You're feeling that it's like activation of coming home, like you're stepping back in front of your altar, and all of the things that were kind of hanging you up and weighing you down are dropping off. Like I said, when we were talking about the Venus and Aquarius, that this wasn't necessarily a time to be fearful that we were going to lose connections. It's not a severing necessarily of the physical connections, even though you will be seeing announcements when we have Venus and Aquarius of breakups and separations. That's just one of the byproducts of Venus in Aquarius, because of that natural emotional detached nature. So one of the good things that will be happening for you is that it's not just about the physical connections, but just how we feel about the connections and towards the connections. So we might have had hangups about leaving a job that we didn't necessarily like, because like, okay, what am I going to do to pay for this, that, and third? How am I going to support this? Or we might not have wanted to be real about how we feel about our relationship, because, this, that, or the third, or our family feels, and blah, 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 blah. So all of this weight is dropping off, and all the things that were stopping you from expanding or investing or adding on to your house or just doing any of that shit is kind of just like, you know what? Why was that hanging me up? What is it like to make my choices from a space of no fear and detachment? So you already have that energy naturally weighing you, or latent within you, but you don't necessarily have the confirmation when sometimes faced with needing that, like, okay, it's okay. Because even you sometimes still need that. You can strike out on your own, but it's nice to feel good about it. And this Uranus energy kind of makes you feel like there's somebody like behind you, like, no, it's cool, like you're good, So you're feeling really confident in doing these new things, and that collective energy is really just invigorating and empowering you. And it's super fueled by the fact that if you're actually being met with success, and if you find yourself being met with success, you're like, well, now nothing's really going to stop you. So it's the message for you is that's actually very light. It feels very actually I haven't pulled for you yet, but it's very light. But just overall, just know that taking into the Aquarius season that there are really good things in store for you. The spirits definitely has some divine shifts and breakthroughs, and any shakeups or things that are being torn down, you may actually be the master of the chaos and control in this instance. But any things that are really actually shifting or breaking down in your space or you don't really have to worry about. Just allow things to be guided and just manage the things that are still remaining and standing. And anything that's actually still standing is actually confirmation that it was actually of value and of worth. Because like one of the things that I want to keep reiterating is that anything being kind of shaken up is on some Jenga shit. And if it don't stand, then that means that you didn't really build a good Jenga house to begin with, so it's like the higher up it gets, the shottier foundations are going to get. So it's like, how long is it actually going to stand up? If it's falling down like right away, then you probably didn't make a good structure. So we're doing some structural checks. Uranus likes to do structural checks, and then it likes to say, because it's very eccentric, it feels like that eccentric old uncle that, you don't really understand why he does what he does, but then sometimes he randomly just shows up with some dope ass shit, and it's like, that's kind of like what we were getting with the, this Uranus energy. So, for you Aquarius, King of Pentacles, so definitely very earthy and definitely confirmations of, are you taking account of the power that you have? And there's some inversion here. So on one end, there's definitely a confirmation to do a self-check to make sure you're not being too judgmental or critical about what's associated with what's associated with what's ahead of you. So yeah, definitely a tongue twister there. So on the other end, it's also a self-check to make sure you are not making the proper use of your power simply because you're considering superfluous information. You may be even psyching yourself out before you actually even get started. The inspirations that are coming to you, which goes back to inspiration, you are having these ideas, and if you're not actually presenting them forward, then it's really just all on you. King of Cups. Actually you and, both you and Gemini kind of holding back mental ideas, and you're kind of like playing small and getting over those processes of playing small. That's why y'all feeling that senpai, teach me senpai, let me take notes off your energy. But anyways, yeah, so the King of Cups. So anything that is actually holding you back is heavily emotional weight has been seated with you for a while. So you've been sitting on this energies, and it's been burdening you for some time, and you're ready to really just put the energy forward. So a lot of king energy, a lot of masculine energy. So if it's not happening in the physical, it's because you're holding back in the emotional. And there's hangups that are being blocked. They might be blocked by traumas. But there's also confirmation to just simply take the chance. And this Three of Cups here is talking about taking the dive because you've been feeling like you've been holding back for too long due to hangups. So this is confirmation that, hey, maybe it's time to just do that thing. There's nothing that's going to come and let you know, like, hey, is this good? Is this good? Is the other shoe going to drop? So it's confirmation like, yes, this is your blessing. The universe is like, this is the blessing. Like, is this it? Like, you mean I might have to actually put a little work into this blessing? Like, yes, you have to grow this blessing. It's the seed blessing. So it's time to grow this. It's time for you to put the work in, which is why I saw the inversion in the King of Pentacles. It's time for you to put the work in. And it has a lot to do with you, or at least the masculine energy support that you have within your space. So are you making proper use of that energy, or are you being held up by it? If there's an emotional conflict, anytime we have a conflict, which is why I see the water of cups, the King of Cups. Anytime we have an emotional conflict or just a conflict that gives us pause, then it's also going to give us a pause in the physical. And anytime there's a conflict is just friction. So if we don't deal with the conflict in our reality because we want to conform, then we deal with the conflict within. So it's going to manifest somewhere because energy can't be created or destroyed. So energy has to go somewhere. So this is a lot about reconciling the emotional so that we can make proper movement and receive the blessings. You may be turning down and not feeling deserving of this energy. And 2022 is a lot about, are you making sure doing that self-check within your heart space to make sure that you are deserving and that you are actually feel that you're capable of performing and putting this energy out in the world and actually receiving back the thing that you actually envisioned. So I'm definitely rooting for you. I hope this message actually resonates for you. For you, Aquarius, more than anything is just truly just embrace the blessings as you move through this Aquarius season. Keep moving. Don't allow yourself to necessarily stop, but just trust in self, and just keep breathing and allowing yourself to accept the blessings that are being presented, because everything that you're receiving during this time is what you deserve. But in particularly for this new moon, dream really, really fucking big. Like dream big as fuck. Petition the universe and dream big, and just don't worry about the how. Just put it out there and give yourself the things that you deserve. But overall, for the collective, I definitely feel that same message. As far as it relates to the new moon, just definitely be dreaming big. Dream on the things that you deserve, and have your heart to be open to the things that you've been working very hard for and putting the energy towards, and the things that you want to see manifest properly in the next months to come. Well, it's not really months. These things are really going to be happening really rapidly. But when these things happen rapidly, because they're going to be happening very rapidly, I do want to make that clear. But when they happen, be thinking on it not just happening, but actually being there and building on that for the months to come, because these are things that are actually going to help to play into your 6-month challenge and the things that you want to see happen to you for the rest of the year. So definitely, I hope you enjoyed this message and you're enjoying your new moon. Much love, many blessings. If you resonate with this, definitely drop a comment and share this message with anyone that needs to hear it. That's all that I have from Spirit. That's Lotus. Much love and happy Wednesday. Ashe.